At the May 12th Lansing City Council meeting, the council heard concerns from the Rent is Too Damn High advocacy group, as well as firefighter and city teamsters union reps. Also, the mayor gets his comments cut short by the buzzer. You want to make the buzzer sound? Welcome to What Lansing Council, a podcast transforming Monday night's Lansing City Council meetings into an enthralling recap. I'm your host, Jill Dombrowski. Today, my very special guest is Professor Randy Watkins. Hello.
Good morning.
Professor Watkins is an associate political science professor at Lansing Community College, that's LCC, and he was the chairman of Mayor Schor's Inclusion and Diversity Advisory Council and served on the Lansing Committee on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And for coming over from the campus. Yeah. Were you on campus this morning?
It was a long walk. No. No, I have to go to campus this morning, so it worked out perfectly.
Okay, great. Yeah. And you told me the name of your class. Can you tell me again?
It's American Political Systems. We call it Polls 120.
Polls 120,
Yep.
Great.
And we look at the three branches of government and current issues.
Let's see. The legislature,
Yep.
executive, and
Good.
judicial.
That is it.
A+.
There you go.
And the city has its own three branches of government.
Yes, it does.
So that's pretty exciting. We're talking about mostly the legislative branch for the city council. Excellent. And for additional introduction, could you tell us how you would describe Lansing in your own 1 to 3 words?
Oh, 1 to 3 words. Reluctant.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you probably want an explanation for that.
Expand on that.
Expand on that. I'm a lifelong Lansing resident. And the recent incident with the tearing down of Eastern High School reminded me of other various historical places that Lansing has torn down, as opposed to finding a way to keep them.
Yeah.
We lost the R.E. Olds Mansion when 496 was built. We lost the R.E. Olds Clubhouse when the Rio Trucking Company was closed. Both places where people had an attachment to it. People felt it was worth saving. But that's as far as it went. No one attempted to find a way to keep them. Mm-hmm. And it's the same with Eastern High School.
Yeah.
Instead of maybe coming up with a way of keeping the facade and building this new Sparrow facility within the facade, they just tore everything down and said, oh, sorry.
There's options.
Yes.
Reluctance.
Yes.
Reluctant
to look beyond the obvious, beyond 1 or 2 options.
Yes. Fair. And what's something that you do like about the city?
I think the people are relatively decent. It's a good community. Mm-hmm. And I find that from time to time amazing. I've met many people who have moved into Lansing and they've told me some wonderful things about it. And I stand there and like, really? Lansing has this, Lansing has that.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those things where you don't see the forest for the trees. I guess being a lifelong resident, I don't see some of the things that the newcomers to Lansing are seeing.
Yeah, those hidden treasures.
Yes.
With those fresh eyes. For sure.
Right.
And what's something that you would like to see changed in the city?
I would like to see us do more to preserve our history. Mm-hmm. We do have a tendency to tear things down. We do have a tendency to ignore things. And then a few years from now, we hear people complaining that we have lost it. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to do a better job of saying we have to keep these.
Yeah. What is it? You're doomed to repeat the history you've forgotten, something like that?
Something like that, yes. Yeah. Those who forget history are doomed to repeat it.
That's the one.
Yeah.
You've got it. We've forgotten a lot of our Lansing history.
Yes.
It's a real challenge, I think.
It is.
And, to decide what history to focus on and who's the narrative controlling that and make room for all the voices. So a lot of voices present at the May 13th, 2025 council meeting. You ready?
I'm ready.
Great. Here we go. The councilors present at the meeting were 6 out of 8. We had our president of the First Ward, Ryan Cost, Jeremy Garza of the Second Ward, Adam Hussein of the Third Ward, and our current at-large members, Jeffrey Brown, Tamara Carter, Vice President, and Trini Pelli-Vonaglu. Absent was Brian T. Jackson of the Fourth Ward and at-large member Peter Spatafor. Mm-hmm. They were missed.
They were. Well, according to some critics, Mr. Jackson is not missed because they say he's been checked out for the last year or so.
He's very mouthy at the meeting.
Okay.
He's got a lot to say.
Okay. Well, I'm just telling you what the critics have told me.
Okay. Also at the committee of the whole meeting, the first part of the meeting was Greg Venker, the city attorney, Mark Lawrence, the mayor's chief of staff, Jake Brower, the city's chief strategy officer, and Sherry Boak, the legislative office manager. Absent was the internal auditor, Charles Randall, who's been at a lot of the meetings, and later we learned why. So we're still embroiled in the budget. Per council's posted schedule, this was the second to last budget meeting.
Okay.
So hopefully one more of these and they'll be done with it. That will be next week, the 19th. They will vote in or out the budget. And if they say no, then there'll be more meetings.
Right.
That's my understanding anyway.
Right.
So in this meeting, we had the last few departmental budget reviews. And first department was city council and internal auditor. And then we had the LEPFA, the Lansing Entertainment and Public Facilities Authority. That's it. President Koss gave the budget review for council and the internal auditor. Not much to report there, except that the auditor, Charles Randall, has left.
He found a new job or something?
He did find a new job.
Wow.
Yes, so he's gone. Yeah. No parting words from him. The LEPFA presentation got quite heated. LEPFA manager Tristan Wright was there, along with Brian Crow of ASM Global, which is based in Detroit. LEPFA wants to contract with ASM Global to run the day-to-day operations of the main three facilities that LEPFA oversees. Do you know what those are?
Let me see. The golf course.
You got it?
The Lansing Center. And probably Jackson Field.
Ding, ding, ding.
Okay.
Those are the ones.
Yeah.
This company that they want to work with, ASM Global, they say, we have national procurement partnerships, so we can get this job done right. We will do the customer-facing, revenue-generating business. And we have tons of experience doing that.
The first question that comes to my mind is there's nobody in Lansing that can do that. We don't have any connections. We don't have any corporations that can do the same thing. And one of the, I was just talking about criticisms. One of the criticisms I have heard is that Lansing outsources a lot.
Yes.
Whether it's construction or, in this case, our facilities. And there are some people who are upset by that.
Yeah. Mowing in the parks is another one that's come up.
I didn't know that.
Outsourcing the mowing.
Yeah.
Yes. And as I understand this, LEPFA was already the outsourced group.
Yes.
And so they're outsourcing again. It's double jeopardy outsourcing.
Okay.
And I think as they were talking through this, President Koss kind of was like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense.
Right.
How do we just get these ASM Global folks without LEPFA? They're basically just taking over your whole job.
Right.
And Councilmember Brown was like, wait, no, we need to maintain some continuity. They've spent a lot of time crafting this deal. Let's not be too hasty.
Right.
The crux of this presentation came when Councilmember Koss brought up an email that people had forwarded to him a few weeks ago. This is my understanding, was LEPFA leadership had a meeting with their attorneys, and they were like, you need to tell your employees that they're going to be under new management when this deal goes through. So they were like, okay. So they sent out this email that was like, hey, you're all fired. Bye.
Oh, great. Where have we seen that before?
Yes. Yeah. People were, and this was on a Friday, and the employees got this email, and they were like, no, what? And they're emailing council, they're emailing the mayor, like, what's going on? So LEPFA's like, okay, our bad. On Monday, they had a meeting with all of their employees, and they were like, hi, sorry. So what's happening is you're going to be taken over by ASM Global. You'll still most likely have your jobs, just not through us.
Well, and once again, that reminds me of some issues that we've had. For example, when the school district privatized its busing operations, from what I understand, they did little to save the jobs of the current bus drivers.
Yikes.
It would seem like if you're going to contract with somebody, you keep your employees. If you want this contract, you're going to have to keep our employees. Then you negotiate salaries and benefits and all that if you need to, but you don't just fire everybody and let the new people take over.
Right. So it sounds like the plan was to transfer the employees, but the communication fell short. President Cost was pretty furious about this, and as I said, he was like, let's get rid of you guys. And it was tough to watch the LEPFA head sit there through that.
Right.
Garza, Carter, Pelivanoglu, Hussein, and Brown all had additional questions. Things like, has the advisory board approved this partnership yet? No, but they're expected to. What's the cost savings to the city for going with this new contractor? Brower, Chief Strategy Officer Brower had an answer for that. He said about $2 million projected over 5 years, but all of that will be reinvested into those facilities. So it's not like super like a cost savings, but those facilities do need a lot of maintenance. How much maintenance do they need? Like, what's the dollar amount? Oh, I don't have that.
Right.
It's like you never get the whole picture. How many employees do you usually retain, ASM Global, when you do these sort of takeovers? And they said usually about 95%. Some people move to other departments within the city. They prefer to stay with the city.
Right. Well, that's a nice number.
Yeah.
So if I was an employee of LEPFA, I'd be kind of pleased with that.
You feel good?
I would feel good.
All right. Excellent. So that was it for LEPFA. Next up, the council had invited the union reps from Teamsters, who handle the police and a lot of city staff, and the firefighters union. So these two union reps were there. They were both like, help. The Teamsters rep said, we have some concerns. Although a few more positions have been created, we're still sitting with over 20 vacancies. These vacancies have been on the books for years. Like, it doesn't make sense to just create new positions when we're not filling the ones we already have open. And council has been grappling with this for a while. We're hearing about it again. We have a lot of contractors filling these vacant positions, and those jobs aren't contributing to like the pension funds.
Right.
So we're losing out there. We are just getting modest wage increases that aren't really covering expected medical benefit premiums that will increase when there's a switch in the health insurance carrier. They want to see a real strategic plan to fill the vacancies and increase staffing.
Well, I have to take a kind of a no comment position on the police issue because I was recently appointed a Lansing police commissioner.
Oh, why didn't you see that at the beginning?
Well, it's still kind of all new to me.
Cool, that's exciting.
And so we did go through the budget and we approved it and sent it on to city council.
Okay.
Other than that, I guess I want to stay away from the police concerns.
No worries. The firefighter guy was next, and he said, and we've heard these figures before, we're so far behind. In 2020, we had 52 folks answering 16,000 calls a year. Now we have 41 folks answering 27,000 calls a year. We only have 5 ambulances. We're running on fumes. We need a long-term plan to address our shortages. We're understaffed. What's the plan? Yeah. Cost was a little furious at this. He says, may I introduce you to our Chief Strategy Officer, Brower. Brower, have you met with these folks? Yeah. No. Yeah. Now's the time. Yeah. You 3 get in a room and come up with a plan.
Yep. That seems appropriate. It's too bad it didn't happen sooner.
Right.
I guess the one comment I'll make about the police department is we discussed that. We discussed a long-term plan with the chief, and we discussed filling vacant positions and how we were going to do that. You know, I am not authorized to speak on behalf of the board.
Of course, this is your own words.
In my opinion, I think we saved ourselves some of that trouble.
And did the plan, I guess, make it up the ranks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Excited to hear more about your plan. Yeah. Councilmember Brown said, can you explain what a call is? Give us some context to what that means. The firefighters union rep said, it can be anything from replacing the batteries in a CO2 detector to a multi-car crash. The average is about an hour of work for the ambulance to go out, do whatever, and then come back. Pelivanoglu worries about vacant clerical positions in the courts. She said, without the proper folks working there, documents can be misplaced, and these can have huge ramifications for people. We got to protect the judiciary.
I remember when I was on the Diversity and Inclusion Council, I was the chair of the Public Safety and Criminal Justice committee. And one of the things we said was it's great for us to come up with a plan to look at policing in the city of Lansing and how that affects residents. But it all falls apart if you don't include the judiciary.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a little bit of pushback from one of the contractors with the city saying we didn't have authority there,
Mm-hmm.
but we had authority to make recommendations. Whether or not the courts accepted those,
Sure.
that's out of our purview. But here's something we're looking at. We want you to take a look at it and let us know.
Yeah.
And that was the attitude we had with it.
Nice. And did you ever hear back from them based on your recommendations?
I don't think the recommendations ever made it out of the committee.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel like some of your recommendations were taken up and action was made out of that committee?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think they were.
Something else that happened at this first part of the meeting was Andy Markovic, the old Metro Bowl owner, arrived at around 5:30. He probably didn't get the notice that the meeting had changed to 5. So he missed his opportunity to give a public comment. And instead, he sat in the chamber, which was very warm, for a while and took a nap.
Uh-oh.
Yes. The council brought Public Service Director Andy Kilpatrick back up to explain a sewer services increase, which he did. Then there was a scheduled Q3 general funds budget update presentation planned. President Koss said, Brower, please keep this to a high level, which he did. Q3 vacancy report from the Human Resources Department had 101 positions currently being worked on in the hiring process.
Wow.
They said for Lansing Police Department, 5 folks have just finished the academy, and we've got 15 going into the academy.
One of the largest, if I remember my notes correctly.
All right.
So, yeah, as a police commissioner, pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's great. They said they're recruiting from neighboring jurisdictions since the Eaton County public safety millage did not go through.
Yes.
Perhaps we can poach some of their folks. So that was it for the first meeting. Break.
Great.
Yeah. I rode the elevator down to get a breath of fresh air with the city attorney, and I said, boy, it was rough watching the chief strategy officer get raked over the coals. The attorney said he loves it. Out in the plaza, tons of folks were assembled from the Rent is Too Damn High organization. They were getting themselves pumped up. I'm going to give my best dressed from the meeting now.
Okay.
I'm going to split this in half because in the first part of the meeting, we had some great floral prints from Loretta Stanaway of the Friends of Lansing Historic Cemetery and Elizabeth O'Leary from HR. They were in a similar print, black background with pink flowers, matching. Very striking. Kyla Moore, the HR deputy director, had a very flattering, colorful, large print floral dress as well. I love a floral print. For the regular meeting, best dress goes to the Rent is Too Damn High group, matching t-shirts, red shirts, or red tops. The visual aid, I feel like, added to their message. Mm-hmm. The regular meeting began, and in comes Mayor and Clerk Swope. Council is looking uneasily at the large contingent of rent folks.
Yes, there is uneasiness when I think elected officials see a large contingent of the public, their constituency there. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I've stressed to my students is we have to let them know about the job they're doing. We can't, if you're complaining about policing, well, you need to go and complain to the police commission. You need to go complain to council. You need to go complain to the mayor. Yeah. You can't, complaining to your neighbor is fine. It's therapeutic, but let somebody in position
That's your
know.
rough draft.
Pardon?
That's your practice.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing there are concerns that our Congressperson Barrett isn't holding town halls because he doesn't want to hear people complain. Yeah. Well, that's what you're elected for. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so as I said, lifelong Lansing member, I remember all the times where people would come in and complain before city council, and they would sit there and they would look away or look down, drink water, do something. Mm-hmm. But they have legitimate concerns.
And this is the job you wanted.
Exactly.
You want to hear them.
Exactly.
Right?
One of the things in the ordinance for the Diversity and Inclusion Committee is that the committee is supposed to speak for people who are voiceless. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the issues I kind of stressed a lot. It takes a lot to come to City Hall, go through security, get to that 10th floor and then stand up in front of a crowd and speak.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
And so instead of, elected officials feeling uncomfortable about the crowd being there, they should embrace that.
Mm-hmm.
And they should obviously thank them all for coming in and letting their voices be heard. Now, there's probably nothing the city can do about rent, but at least it's out there and the city can start investigating.
Sure. Here is the best joke that happened at the meeting. So early in these meetings, anyone from the public can come up and give a 1-minute announcement for their community event. Mm-hmm. And often people are doing that. So somebody came up, a few people came up, and then the last person to come up, theirs was very brief. Next on the agenda was the mayor's comments, and the clerk did not stop the countdown buzzer on the clock from the public comments. So just as the mayor was opening his mouth to speak, the buzzer went off. And the mayor said, "And I guess that's my time." And Cost, not missing a single beat, said, "Thank you, Mayor." And next on the agenda... But they let him go back and talk. So he had, what did he say? He said the Lansing Commons soccer team won their first game of the season 7-0.
Oh, nice.
Good for them. There's some Jolly Road construction upcoming, and this Saturday is 517 Day. Everyone in Lansing, there's tons of stuff to do. If you can't find something to do, that's your fault.
Mm-hmm. True. Yeah.
Yes. So those are the updates. Any plans for 517 Day for you?
This is coming Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
No, I had not heard that it was 517 Day. I suspect that we will go downtown and see what's going on.
Yeah. Check it out. You can
check it out. Yeah.
Rappel down Bogie Towers.
No, I physically I probably could do that, but psychologically, no, I don't want to. No.
I'm terrified of heights.
Same here.
So no thanks. One action item came out of the meeting. They are amending the lead time for virtual participation in public comment from 4 hours before the meeting to 30 minutes before the meeting. And council passed this unanimously. Councilmember Brown said he wanted to thank Councilmember Jackson for pushing this forward, even though he wasn't here for the vote. And Councilmember Hussein said, and also the People's Council, particularly Michael Lynn. That was a change. And,
so they were taking public comment by email or whatever 4 hours before the meeting.
So I think what this is you can log in. There's like a virtual portal through the onlines, and you can say, I can't be at the meeting, but I want to give a comment in meeting over the computer.
Okay. On these issues on the agenda or public comment period.
Right. I've only seen this one time that somebody has given a virtual public comment. And there's like a little bit of like audiovisual magic that has to go on to like get them plugged in, and then the like voice is heard in the chambers. So it's like being there, but you can be in your own house and they still hear your voice. So that's another option.
I didn't know that was an option.
So there you go. And now you don't have to tell them 4 hours ahead of time. You can tell them half an hour.
Okay.
Encouraging participation.
Yes.
We should all give a virtual comment. Let's see. The first comment was from someone not from the rent folks, and this person said, we need to change the budget process. It is not good, not working. We need total reconstruction of this. We need to look at the police, fire, public service, and parks first. They need to be at best practice staffing levels to protect and provide a decent quality of life for our citizens. Only then can we look at the rest of this nonsense. Facades, improvements, downtown Lansing Inc. neighborhood groups. These are secondary. They should not be funded over proper adequate staffing of those top 4 departments.
That's interesting. I don't know if I necessarily agree with the top 4. I probably would put neighborhoods up closer to the top 4.
Okay.
Maybe neighborhood and parks are on the same level.
Yeah.
I guess it would be interesting to know why the person did that. What was their overall did they have safety concerns? Did something happen in their neighborhood that led them to believe that?
I think this person does spend some time listening to the police scanner.
Okay.
And does hear a lot of people calling in, and they have to wait a long time before the police respond to their issues. And this seems like a breakdown of public safety.
Okay. Okay. Yep. I can see that. Yeah.
Then it was the rent is too damn high, folks. I am not great at estimating of things, but my estimation would be over 30 people, between 30 and 40 people. 16 gave comments, so at least 2 non-commenting for every commenting person.
Wow.
And they were filling up one whole side of the chambers. They had a few asks of council. First, come and take a tour with us on May 24th at noon. We invite you to come to the Sycamore Townhomes. This is west of Waverly, north of Jolly, in Eden County portion of Lansing. They said the city pinked and red tagged these facilities. I think there's over 300 units a while ago, because the properties were not being properly maintained by the landlords. A federal judge granted a receivership over the property. The folks living there say they are not working. The receivership person is not working well with the residents. The city promised they were not going to evict people, but now they are being evicted. They're not given adequate time to find new housing, and they're not getting promised relocation funds. So that was one place, the Sycamore Townhomes. And they said, after we do a tour there, we invite you to tour the Diedrich Park Encampment, also known as the Fallen Angels Encampment. And this spot is at the north end of the River Trail, west of Turner Dodge, north of Olympic Broil. There's a big encampment there. Yes. It's been there for years, and it seems like the city is working to clear that out. The folks here are saying, you don't have a plan. Don't do this without a plan. You're not solving anything if you're just kicking people out with no place for them to go. So tour these properties, stop kicking people out of this encampment, and give people the relocation funds and stop evicting them from the Sycamore Townhomes.
Yeah, I've seen the camp. It's indicative of a problem we have nationwide in terms of homelessness and what we do. It'd be great if we had a plan. I have not. There probably is. I haven't seen it, so I really can't speak to that. But it could be that there's a lack of communication, that the city does have a plan and they're not letting these people know. Evictions are horrible. Once again, the people should know what's going on. If they've been promised certain things, whether by the receiver or by the city, that should be followed through on.
Yeah.
Then I guess the question is, where do they go?
Yeah.
So I know the city has passed some ordinances to crack down on landlords and hopefully get some of these issues cleaned up.
Yeah.
But like with everything, it takes time.
Sure. And
how much effort are we willing to put into that? So.
Yeah. Someone said, I want to live in a city where the government shows empathy and compassion for citizens. Another commenter quoted the city council mission: promote a vibrant, safe, healthy, and inclusive community. These people are part of our community.
Yes.
Another person said, 1 in 10 houses in Lansing are vacant and people are living on the streets. How can we make this change? A lot of people here live paycheck to paycheck. What would you do if you lost your job and couldn't pay your rent? So what is the city's responsibility?
Well, health, safety, and welfare. But that's kind of indicative of where we are nationally. What's the government's responsibility to help people? From time to time, we have these theories that everybody has to help themselves, that it's not government's responsibility to find you a place to stay or anything like that. But government should have in place assistance so that, you can go to Office A and they'll tell you, hey, here's some places that are available for you. If we have housing stock that's empty, maybe the government should find a way to fix them up, make them code compliant so people can buy them. I don't know. There are a lot of, and one of the things I talk to my classes about is what's the real problem, and what information do we need to get to that real problem. And so when you give them, you let them come up with an example of something, and then you start breaking it down, and you find that, well, I thought the real problem was A, and then because of all the other student input, you find out, well, no, that's not the real problem.
Yeah.
And so we do take that first couple of classes to kind of see
Problem
what is
definition.
the issue and how do we get there.
Yeah.
And that helps illustrate what some of the problems with government are.
Yeah.
That you have 400, not including the Senate, you have 435 House members. Each of them have a problem that they want government to do something on, and it's a matter of, how do we compromise to get there?
Compromise.
Yeah.
Everyone's...
I like the way you said that. It's almost like, well, we don't do that anymore.
It's such a hot button word.
Yes.
But this is our lives.
Yep.
I mean, every single moment you're kind of making a decision, making a compromise. Right. So how do we do this more effectively as a group?
Yes.
Group compromise. Yeah. What are the problems that your class comes up with?
Oh my gosh. We've done housing, we've done drugs, foreign policy. I mean, the whole realm of things that our government may be involved in.
How have you seen that what the students perceive change through your tenure, interacting with them? Does it just echo national concerns, or is there different kind of pathways you're seeing with folks?
They echo national concerns. This is a mixed bag. I have liberal students and I have conservative students, and they agree on things. They agree that people shouldn't just be rounded up and sent out without due process.
Yeah, great.
They understand, due process and what it means to be an American and what the laws and the rules are. And,
Good.
They are concerned that some of those rules are bent. They're concerned about where the money in the economy is going. Because, you mentioned paycheck to paycheck. A lot of the students are working minimum wage jobs. They obviously want to move up, and they're concerned about where the economy is going and concerned about it's not, in a sense, fair. Not, of course, I grew up being told that not everything is fair. So, it's like, how can the system be as fair as possible to help people? And then when they start breaking down the different definitions of middle class, they find that they're not even hitting the scale at this point. But their viewpoints are just wonderful. They understand what's going on from the liberal conservative perspective, and they look at the issues from those perspectives, and they look for solutions from those perspectives. Yeah.
And what an opportunity for them to gain the experience of talking through these issues with each other and with you.
Yes. Because, one of the things we talk about is not happening nationally. Everybody is kind of in their bubble, whether it's the news bubble or the political bubble, and they're not talking outside of that. So you really don't have that compromise of opinions in order to get to a solution.
Yeah, because you don't have to.
Right, you don't have to. I've got the most people, I've got all the votes. I can just go ahead and ram things through if I want to.
Yeah.
And that's both parties. So I don't want to make it look like it's only, right or left. But
sure.
Every party does that.
Yeah. It's tricky.
Yes.
Because you've got to have conviction in your beliefs to make change.
Yes.
So.
And that's one of the things I tell them, that I'm going to challenge them up front. I'm going to do my best to attack their convictions. Everybody has fundamental beliefs. My theory is, if you're not attacked on those beliefs, why do you have them? Yeah. And you need to understand them, and you need to defend them. And if in that process you understand that, well, really, I can't defend that, well, maybe it's time to look at that and say, well, I need to change. I need to move beyond that position to a new one.
Yeah. Growth, change. It's hard.
It is hard. I hate being an adult.
But we're better for it. Listeners, thank you so much. I challenge you to go out and have a value-based discussion with somebody else. Let me know how it goes. Our next meeting will be May 19th, and that will hopefully be the last budget meeting. Our special guest will be Alicia Maida of the Genesee Neighborhood Association. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review. These reviews go a long way to help the show. Do you have anything, Professor Watkins, that you would like to promote or give a shout out to? Any events?
Well, from the promotion standpoint, there is going to be a rodeo celebrating cowboys and cowgirls of color at the MSU Pavilion, September 19th and 20th.
Awesome.
And I would encourage people to attend. If I remember correctly, tickets are $30, and it's going to be a great rodeo.
Are you participating?
My wife is on the committee.
Oh, very cool.
So I will be doing some volunteering, but my wife is on the committee.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yes, I really enjoyed speaking with you. And thank you to the Public Media Center for letting us record with you. And thank you all for listening.